Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Sunday, April 20th, 2025. Easter Sunday, as much of the Western world calls it. And with it being Easter and so many people being of the Christian faith, or at least at some point in their life being raised in the Christian faith, I thought it'd be an appropriate time to again talk about why we really all need to lose our religion. Dogma is holding the world back, it is dividing the people needlessly, it's having people not acknowledge the power they have, it's causing them to wait for mythical figures to come and save the day. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at the consequences, yet again, of mythology that people believe wholeheartedly in. So, big story this week in the international headlines. Of course, a good way to lose the audience in the U.S. is to talk about stories outside of the U.S., and this is something that needs to change about our society as well. People in the U.S. tend not to look at international news at all, and it's just, I don't even know how to put it. It's not right. International news matters, and especially in the sense we're going to talk about tonight, because really it is all connected. So, big story in the international world is that Muslim sheep herders, just before Easter, massacred a group of Christians. And when the news first broke, it was that they killed 17 Christians. Then it went to 40 Christians. Of course, there's a lot of 40 in the Bible. And then it arrived at a total death count of 56 Christians. If you listen to last week's broadcast, we closed out talking a bit about 56. And we're going to talk about it a whole lot more tonight because it's also Hitler's birthday anniversary. And here we are broadcasting on social media where you're not even supposed to say his name. They say it docks you in the algorithm. Your content's less likely to reach people for even uttering his name. This is how absurd the world is that we live in right now. But about the small mustache man, when I was in school, they would teach us that, well, I was going to say another word that you're also not allowed to say. The appropriate phrase or the allowed terminology is self-deleted. Hitler self-deleted himself is what they would teach us growing up. And they would also say, but his body was never found. And his self-deletion came 10 days after his 56th birthday. 56 again. When I was a child in school, I would always ask my teacher if he killed himself, but his body was never found, how was that story verified? And my teachers always say, that's a good question. I don't know. I'd say, why are you teaching it to us then? Doesn't even make any sense. Of course, Hitler was, was a small mustache man. He was blamed for instigating a war. And a war that really doesn't make any sense if you actually look into it. Germany was dead broke from World War I, made to pay reparations for Europe. So how in the world could they have possibly financed a military that nearly defeated the entire world? We'll get more into that. But in light of a man blamed for a war dying at 56, does it remind you of anyone else in the history books? Say Abraham Lincoln, blamed for the American Civil War, assassinated in a theater at age 56. And again, Lincoln blamed the Civil War on the Jesuits, and John Surratt was part of the Jesuit assassination plot, and he's left out of the history books as well, John Surratt. Again, everyone should look that up. But 56 again, 56. And we all know who won the 56th U.S. presidential election, don't we? You know, Lincoln freed the slaves. This guy had a nice suntan. He represented the land of Lincoln. You know, I'm talking about Obama. The one with the Muslim name, elected president after nearly a decade of fear-mongering about Saddam Hussein and Barack. God, I almost Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein fear mongering for a decade. Then we get Barack Hussein Obama in the 56th election. There's so many of these 56s, it's ridiculous. We're going to cover a bunch of them tonight and where this number gains its significance. But yeah, let's talk about this. In the days leading up to Easter, big international headline that Muslims slaughter 56 Christians in Nigeria. And the president told the story on Monday, April 14th. April 14th, the anniversary of Lincoln being shot at 56. The anniversary of the Titanic hitting the iceberg. Again, the Titanic was told about before it happened in the book Futility Wreck of the Titan, where the largest ship ever built hits an iceberg on its first sail from Europe to America and sinks. But anyway, the president of Nigeria tells the story of these evil Muslims who killed these innocent Christians, again, just days before Easter. What could be more provoking? And again, we're going to get to the bottom of this 56, but as we brought up last week, the practice of coding numbers into words, which comes from Kabbalah, which is gematria. The word pope equates to 56, and the calendar is named after the pope. It was given to us by the Jesuit priest Christopher Clavius. The Jesuits served the pope. They're considered the pope's military order. That's why their leader's the superior general. Just yesterday, April 19th, was the anniversary of the first Jesuit superior general being named Ignatius of Loyola. But coming back to Nigeria and the president telling the story of the slaughter just days before Easter, the president there is Bola Tinubu, whose name has a gematria value of 117. And he told his story 117 days after the Pope's birthday. And actually, I take that back. The supposed attack and slaughter happened 117 days after the Pope's birthday. And then he told the story the next day, the president, Bola Tinubu, on Monday, April 14th, a day known for tragedy. And consider that date in the majority of the world is written 14/4, a bit like 144. Jesuit order equates to 144. So if you're saying, well, why would the Jesuits, aka the Society of Jesus, why would they perform these kind of demented, divisive rituals? And if you're asking that question, I'd encourage you to crack open your Bible and read it. Luke 12:51 through 53. This is in the words of Jesus himself. And remember, that's not the original name, Yeshua. And you have to remember that this book was compiled in the time of Rome with fragments, mistranslations, etc., etc. But here is what remains, and here's how it reads today. So this is Luke 12:51 through 53. Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on, there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Right from the book. Right from the book. Also in Luke 14:26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And a Christian would tell you that, language back then was a little bit different. Hate is not exactly meaning the same thing you would think of as hate today. It's more about if you do not prioritize Jesus above all things, then you cannot be his disciple. Your family is definitely secondary. And again, if somebody came up on the street, a stranger, and said these things to you, you might understand how he ended up at, you know, in a cell and eventually on death row, which is what happens to people like this today. You go around, preaching evil, divisiveness. You come to bring the sword. You come to kill. Again, these are crimes. And you think about it in the story, Jesus is seen as a criminal and he's given capital punishment. But yeah, just really think about it. I mean, those are the words of Jesus in the Bible. What has the world been in the time of Christianity? It's been a world at war. Who has instigated the majority of the major wars? The religious. The Catholic Church for the longest time had the Templars waging war after war after war until they were burned at the stake. And then came about the Jesuits in their honor. And again, the Jesuits have the Templar cross right in the middle of their logo. And the Jesuits came out of France, the same place the Templars were burned at the stake. But yeah, it's also transparent. And remember, we're going to get to the corona, the 56 virus, where everything was 56. And well, let me read that. Let me read that Luke section again and just think about what happened within many households over the corona, where it was simulated by the Jesuit-ran World Economic Forum on the same day the Military World Games began in Wuhan, China, when the Military World Games began in Italy and were first sponsored by the Jesuits. And don't forget that the first case of C-19 was 56 days after Event 201. Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on, there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Think about Cooties 19. It brought a lot of division into households. People who are waking up or already awake, who saw through it, versus the flock, who just goes on believing whatever the authorities tell him. Put your slave muzzle on. Okay. Get an experimental jab. Okay. Get one from Moderna. Company ran by 2 Jesuits who's never made a jab before. Okay. And then the wake people are like, what? I thought jabs take decades to research to make sure they're safe. A company that's never made one before, rushing one out in a matter of months? Wait a minute, I was watching the news tonight. Lester Holt says 99.9% survivable. What do I even need this for? I can't go to my job? Hold on, it was coined as seasonal flu in 1968? Lester Holt just said there's no cases of flu this year and they're all corona? Didn't he essentially just say they're not flu anymore? They're just the 1968 version of the flu? Again, like I've said before, the bedrock of everything that's wrong in this world is religion, because religion is put on children at a young age, and it teaches them to fear going against authority, questioning authority. Again, when I was 12 years old, coming up in the Lutheran church, I got kicked out of confirmation for asking too many questions. I was seen as a disruption and distraction for asking questions, and all I asked ever were reasonable questions. And that's when I lost my religion. I said, you know what? These adults are full of it. They can't answer simple questions, just like my teacher at school can't tell me why Small Mustache Man, his body was never found, but they know he self-deleted himself. And I noticed back then, the other kids in Sunday school, I knew what they were like outside of Sunday school. Punks. But they acted like little goody two-shoes in church. Probably because they got an ice cream cone afterwards if they got a good report when mom and dad came to pick them up. But anyway, it really is just also transparent what is done to us. Who said the quote, Give me the child until 7 and I'll show you the adult. Look into who said that quote. Because that's exactly what happens to almost everybody in our society. At a very young age, we learn authority, hierarchy. We're low on the pecking order. We better go along with what we're told. We better believe or else. If you don't believe, you could end up in eternal damnation. And then for anyone who actually reads the book, it's just full of all kinds of crazy things from the beginning until the end. I was just reading from Genesis 19 the other day. The two daughters who have sex with their father. I mean, that's not weird. The Bible's just full of weirdo stuff from the beginning to the end. And everyone's so afraid to go, yeah, this book is a steaming load. This book is problematic. Look at all the people in the world hating other people outside of their own faith. They look at the next faith and they go, man, that is so dumb over there. Can you believe anybody believes that? But then they don't have that same opinion about their own faith that they were born into. And it just shows you the power of what you're indoctrinated into and how it shapes your worldview and how it makes it illogical. If you can look at the next man's religion and see that it's dumb and nonsensical, when really it's no different than yours, again, it just explains the whole problem right there. From the beginning, it starts forming illogical minds, biased minds, fearful minds. Really, what we should be doing in our young people is just teaching them good values, and it doesn't need any dogma. Everyone who makes this argument that without religion, how can you have morals? Easily. Natural law, for one. The golden rule, taught in every spirituality. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. If somebody treats you incorrectly and puts your life in danger, you have the right to defend yourself. Those two rules alone almost account for really all you need. I mean, there could be a few more lines of code you could write. But again, the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And it's understandable. It doesn't need to be explained. Everybody wants to be treated kindly. They want to be respected. And if somebody does aim to harm you, you have the right to defend yourself. And see, that's the other thing that Christianity teaches. It teaches you to essentially just roll over and get, bulldozed. Turn the other cheek. Give Caesar what's his. You really look at the faith, and then you take a look at the world. It all starts to make 1,000,000% sense. That's what you see. Illogical people, cowardly people, fearful people, people who trust way too much in authority, people who do turn the other cheek when they get abused by the authority. We're giving Caesar way too much. But yeah, again, if you're out there listening and you're offended, the reason you're offended is because you know what I'm saying is true. And inside, you're all full of fear. You have this fear inside you that if you go against your spiritual beliefs, you could end up with eternal damnation. And that's all your religion boils down to. Fear. That's it. And the average Christian, they don't do anything good because of their spirituality. In fact, they probably do more bad because they've also got this idea that if they just believe in Jesus, all is forgiven and they can have the eternal afterlife. And that is just lame. How is someone who's secular, who goes about, wanting to help others, actually helping others, making it a point to constantly help others, and they're not doing it for any kind of eternal afterlife. They're just doing it to make a better world because they know it's nice to help people when you can help them. How is that not a better spiritual and more meaningful existence than the person who goes around thinking, oh, yeah, I believe on the inside in Jesus, so I'm greater than everybody else, even though I'm a little devious, whatever. But I believe, and that's all I do. I just believe, and never lifts a finger for anyone else, never helps anybody else out. They just believe in this story inside. Again, I'm talking. I mean, this is over 90% of the Christian people that are out there. To believe in some story inside your head and do nothing positive for the world, and simply so you can get some eternal afterlife. It's just because that's the story you were told when you were a little kid. I mean, where isn't it pathetic? Again, if you're out there and I'm describing you and it's making you mad, realize why it's making you mad and then do something about it. So, yeah, why do you get this divisive, evil story of Muslims murdering Christians right before Easter? Again, it's just totally dishonest too, because who's done the majority of murdering of the other religion when it comes to Christianity and Islam throughout history? I mean, it's not even funny. It's not even funny. It's the exact opposite. In fact, here we are in the U.S. We're considered to be a Christian nation. How many Christians right now are in some trailer with their joystick flying a drone, bombing some Muslim part of the world right now? Well, seriously. There's probably since I started this podcast, there's probably over 56 Muslims who've been killed by some Christian in a trailer with his joystick already. And it's not going to make the news because thanks to Trump and the last time he was in president, again, all these chumpers out there. Oh, no, there were no new wars under Trump in the First Amendment. Yeah, he escalated drone bombing to levels never before heard and also passed legislation so they don't have to report on it. And Trump claims to be a Christian. He also said his favorite verse in the Bible is from the Old Testament, which would make you think otherwise. But yeah, it's just so disingenuous. And you know, I understand. My wife is from Burma. For people who don't know, Burma's now mostly referred to as Myanmar. They had the terrible earthquake over there, but that country has the longest going civil war in the world. It's over 50 years now. The U.S. started taking refugees from that country in 2008, the same year they started taking refugees from Iraq and Afghanistan after we blew those places to smithereens. And by the way, if you've never read George Orwell, his first book that he wrote, Burmese Days, which created his political views on life and how he saw the problems with authority, it's very interesting. You should read that book, Burmese Days. The first number at the beginning of the book is 56. Orwell was a member of the Fabian Society. But yeah, Burma is the size of Texas, and the population is over 50 million, and it's split between three religions. European missionaries brought Christianity to Burma. Islam and Buddhism are also in that country, and all three religions war with each other. The civil war is fought. It's a three-way triangular war for over 50 years, just people killing each other over their religious beliefs. And again, why? I mean, why? To me, it's amazing that people cannot evolve past this religion thing. It really does. It boggles my mind. Because almost everybody is the same. They will look at the next person's religion and just gaff at it and say, oh, that is absolutely ridiculous. Are you kidding me? You believe in that? Obviously, that's not true. Oh, but my religion, mine? And honestly, from my life experience, Christians are the worst about it. And Christianity is the only religion that goes door to door selling their faith. But yeah, I've never had a Buddhist come to my door, or a Muslim come to my door, or any other faith. But I have had a lot of Christians, and all kinds of different sects of Christianity too. That's the thing. Christians can't even get along. All the different denominations that think they're better than the next denomination, or their interpretation of the Bible is the correct one and the other groups is not. And that should tell you all you need to know about the religion too. You don't even know exactly what any of the verses mean. And there's all these excuses and, oh, it's because it got lost in translation. And, oh, that actually means this now. And Greek, this idea couldn't be communicated in English, so it's written this way. Like, what are we doing? If God wanted everybody to have one true eternal message, like, why doesn't he just etch it in the sky? It's God. It's the creator. Why not just look up in the sky, break a limb in the sky? Oh, there it is every day. Undeniable. Look at that. God wrote out a new verse today in the sky. Holy smokes. That, you know what I mean? It's just, it's crazy how illogical people are. And then here's the other thing too. And I meant to get to this point just right off the bat. Say the word Easter out loud. East-star. 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 What is the East Star? The Order of the Eastern Star. That's the branch of Masonry for women. East Star. Is that the sun? The star that rises in the east. It resurrects every day. This time of year. Longer days. Greater energy from the sun. The plants are in bloom. Life is resurrecting. The birds and the bees are out. Little birds popping their heads out of the nests. Life just resurrecting all over the place. Thanks to that East Star, which also sounds like Ishtar. And Christians will swear up and down they don't have anything to do with each other. But what are the symbols for Ishtar? Oh, bunnies and eggs. Huh, it's funny how they incorporated that into Christianity, right? Bunnies and eggs. That's what's associated with the Mesopotamian female god Ishtar. But then nearly every Christian's, they got their little ones. Even my mom sent me an outfit for little Ruby. Nice Easter bunny. Sweet lady took some photos of her with the Easter bunny outfit on last week, and Mom called me this morning. She's like, can you take more photos of her in that Easter bunny outfit? I was like, what do you need more for? We already got her dressed today. Oh, my goodness. No, it's just everything, man. Again, the Catholic Church, you guys, they gave us the calendar. They gave us the language. The Catholic Church began worshiping the sun. They called it Sol Invictus. They started worshiping on December 25th in 274 AD. Again, the Jesuit motto, E Sus Hominum Salvator, equates to 274. IHS is the abbreviation, in the sun. Of course, running in reverse, it equates to 266, like Pope Francis is the first Jesuit pope and the 266th in the history of the church. Again, like we talked about, this practice of coding numbers into words, it's so revealing. But yeah, in the year 320 AD, the Pope got the idea that they should start celebrating the son of God's birthday on 1225. The Pope first proposed it in 320. Council of Nicaea came in 325 AD. After the Council of Nicaea, Christmas, the Son of God, all that stuff was really standardized. What's interesting about the Pope first proposing it in 320 is Roman Catholic Church equals 320. From 274 AD to 320 is 46 years later. Catholic equates to 46. RIP JFK at 46. And the second Catholic Pope, or not Pope, but President, Joe Biden again, was number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, after the sacrifice of Beau Biden at age 46. But yeah, sun, the object in the sky, the male offspring. And of course, the Bible is very pro-male. Women are very secondary in the Bible. Yeah, again, it's just a very divisive text. It's a very dated text. It's a very hypocritical text. And it's also one that states plainly what its mission is. War, killing, death, famine, division, fear, fear, fear. These are major recurring themes in the Bible. I'm not sure this is what I want to believe in. I'm a bad person if I don't believe in this. I'm a bad person if I don't want to get down on my knees on Sunday and drink somebody's blood and eat their body and believe in all this. I feel like I'm the only thinking person. And again, more people really do need to find their courage and stop living in fear. Like I told you, I got kicked out of confirmation when I was 12 years old. And I remember our pastor, it wasn't our pastor who kicked me out, it was the other adults who helped him out. I actually liked my pastor. His name was Pastor Jake. He was a really friendly and well-spoken guy, really patient. I actually liked him. And he asked me if I wanted to speak when the other children. I still would end up going to church sometimes after I got kicked out of confirmation because my mom still went on Sundays. And Pastor Jake asked me when the other kids were graduating from confirmation if I wanted to speak and just say something, I guess just to like make me feel like I was part of the group. And I said, sure. And I still remember that day very well because I remember everybody's faces. I went up before the church where the pastor would speak, where the other kids from the group spoke first, and I explained to the room full of probably at least 100 people why I no longer believed and why nobody could answer any of my questions and how I was punished for that. And I think I told them they should all think about those questions as well. Yeah, just people, just, you know, when people look at you like, oh my God, what is wrong with this person? But really, it's like, no, not what's wrong with me. What is wrong with you? Why do you believe these silly stories that literally make zero sense? Why? And yeah, why doesn't God etch his message up in the sky? God, the creator, can do whatever he wants, right? Isn't that the belief? All powerful, created all things. If he wanted to be understood, and I say he, or even I talk about like it's only one God. Again, that's you know all of us raised in the Bible, we learn one God. How do we not know there's several creators? Again, maybe the atheists are right. I tend to think there is a creator, though. Personally, maybe it's my bias from coming up in the church, but yeah, I don't pretend to know things that cannot be known. That's dishonest in itself. And that's the other thing that these religions make you do through the indoctrination. They make you conform to something that's impossible to know. And so many people, they act like they do know. And the reason why is because they know the other side of the coin. If you don't believe, it's eternal damnation. So you better believe, or at least say you do. Okay. So again, we started here with 56 Christians killed by Muslims in Nigeria. Big international headline in the days leading up to Easter. The president of Nigeria gave a press conference about this killing again on April 14th, 14/4, like 144. For the record, Jesuit order equates to 144. So does Easter Bunny. Easter Bunny. We'll come back to that in a minute. And with regards to the 56 theme, Easter this year fell on Hitler's birthday. Remember, Hitler supposedly died at age 56. His name in Gematria equates to 56. If you look into the SS, they were literally modeled after the Jesuit order. And the formal title of the Jesuits is Society of Jesus, which equates to 56. Remember, in the base ciphers of the English language, I learned about this in the 1926 book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. In the base ciphers, they are the alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26. The reverse alphabetic order, Z is 1 back to A is 26. And both orders with numerology applied. So every word will have 4 numerical values. The cipher that's considered the most pure is the alphabetic order with numerology applied. That's where Adolf Hitler equates to 56, just like Society of Jesus. Hitler supposedly offed himself 10 days after his 56th birthday. If you want to look up the New York Times article that was published September 16th, 2023, it was titled "Letter Suggests Pope Pius XII Knew of Mass Gassings of Jews and Poles in 42." And it says that a German Jesuit priest had delivered this information to him, and the Pope remained mum on it. And you should look into the Jesuits and the SS. Again, the SS were modeled after the Jesuits, but the Jesuits were supposedly split over what Hitler was doing. He had many Jesuit supporters in his mission, but he also had dissenting Jesuits. And if you look it up, July 20th, 1944 was the day that dissenting Jesuits within the German regime tried to kill Hitler. July 20th, 1944. A year to the day later, July 20th, 1945, that is when the U.S., through Operation Paperclip, began bringing Nazi scientists to the United States of America. And a lot of them became the leading members of NASA. And notice the moon landing was exactly 24 years later, July 20th, 1969. The moon ruled by Cancer and the time of Cancer, when the astrological symbol for Cancer is 69. Nazis has gematria of 24 and 69 as well. 24 years later, the moon landing. And of course, the lead scientist was Werner von Braun, the same one that wrote the book, The Project Mars, about the Elon. And of course, when Elon did that recent salute on Inauguration Day, that same day, Werner von Braun's wife died. And by the way, July 20th can be written 20/7, like 207. Werner von Braun's name equals 207. And the day that Musk did the salute was the 207th day of his own age. Also, January 20th, Inauguration Day, is the 201st day of the nation's age when you measure from July 4th. And July 20th is the 201st day of the year. And as we talked about last week, the Jesuit order equals 201, just like Ignatius of Loyola equals 201, who's the founder of the Jesuits, just like Jorge Mario Bergoglio equates to 201, who was the first Jesuit pope, Pope Francis, the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, and the list goes on. There's a lot of 201s with the Jesuits. But yeah, just the way all these things fit together. That's why we started bringing the Jesuits to America on the 201st day of the year. The moon landing was on the 201st day of the year, and Neil Alden Armstrong also equates to 201. But yeah, you learn this little letter and number code. Everything starts to make sense. You start to see how the rituals are so perfectly constructed, and you start to understand why. Again, the Jesuits gave us the calendar and the language. The Jesuits took on the Templar tradition. The Templars brought Kabbalah back to the church after the Crusades. This whole thing of letters and numbers comes from Kabbalah. By the way, Jewish mysticism also equates to 201. One of the paramount teachings within Jewish mysticism is Kabbalah. It is the paramount teaching. And gematria is largely a Jewish practice. Remember, Jesus was from Judea. The woman who he didn't want to help out, she wasn't Jewish. He referred to her as a dog. And by the way, with regards to Hitler getting bankrolled in building up one of the world's most powerful militaries there ever was when Germany was broke, a great mystery that's really not acknowledged in the history books and never explained. Who do you think was behind it? The church is one of the wealthiest things on the earth. And again, who were the original bankers in this world? The Templars. The Templars were the first bankers. Don't forget what came out of Adolf and all that was the state of Israel. And State of Israel equals 201, and it goes with David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister, dying 201 days after the anniversary of Israel's establishment. For the record, if you look up Adolf's birth certificate, you'll see that his birth certificate name is Adolphus Hitler, which equates to 201. And also, if you want to look into things that got the Germans really rolling and blaming things on the Jews, look into the Reichstag fire. It has a lot of parallels to 9/11. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember the name of the man who was blamed for the Reichstag fire, but if you look up his name and run the gematria, you'll see that that man's name equates to 201. Just like how there were twin towers, 2 that became 0 before they became 1. And another prominent Jesuit motto is both into one. It's also the motto of Georgetown, the first Jesuit university in the U.S. The Society of Jesus. By the way, 9/11, the flights that hit the towers and the Pentagon, Flight 11 and 175 hit the World Trade Centers, and 77, again, hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian, 77 minutes after taking off. If you add 11 plus 175 plus 77, it adds up to 263, which is the 56th prime number. And here's something a little more personal for me. We did a cross-country trip from Seattle to New York. We hit all the major cities, driving across the interstate in the northern part of the country, all the major cities between Seattle and New York. We united the truth seekers, and we rallied at the base of the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2022. The whole trip was about raising awareness about this knowledge, what's going on in the world, how the Jesuits are pulling the strings, how when you learn what they're into and their symbolism, you can understand world events a lot more clearly. 263 days after September 11th, 2022, I didn't post a single thing on the YouTube channel that we set up for that. After that, the last videos were, the last days of that trip. 263 days after September 11th, 2022, YouTube just deleted the entire channel, not a single strike on it, and I got the email saying that had violated the terms of service. And if you've ever had your channel delete on YouTube, they don't give you any explanation. They just say you violated the terms of service. I thought, wow, 263 days after 9/11. And we were literally on the ground in New York educating about 263 and many other things. But yeah, these people are counting. And again, yours truly is definitely an enemy of these people. There's not a lot of people who've come along and exposed these people as clearly as yours truly has. And for doing it, been up against unprecedented censorship as well. 20-some YouTube channels deleted. And again, for the last 3 years, in total algorithm lockdown. But yeah, let's keep moving along and talking about other things that are buzzing. Other 56s in the news. Did you see the execution of Deshaun Leith on Martin Luther King Jr. Day? That, in recent days, the body cam footage has been released. And you'd never believe it, but Deshaun Leith. First of all, let's just backtrack a second. Remember, Martin Luther King Jr. was born Michael. He assumed the name Martin Luther after the Protestant Reformation later, who penned the 95 Theses, which brought about the Jesuits 201 months later. And again, eventually, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the 95th day of the year, and the nation's first gun control legislation came 201 days later. So Deshaun Leith, a young black man, gets executed, and you see it with the body cam footage. Deshaun Leith equates to 56, like Society of Jesus, like Black Lives Matter. And if you've seen the footage, you saw that he had a t-shirt on that said Buffalo. Buffalo. And remember, in Buffalo, you recently had the white supremacists shoot up the grocery store on Israel's birthday. That's a whole nother story. We were out on the ground in Buffalo educating about why that happened on that specific day, the deeper racial history, the whitewashing of the Bible, what the real white supremacy is. But anyway, just about the 4 base ciphers, Body cam and Buffalo are an exact match in all four ciphers. Body cam Buffalo equal the same four numbers in every cipher. This guy's executed on body cam with a t-shirt that just says Buffalo. And here's the other thing to think about with Buffalo. Last year, the Trump assassination hoax. The man killed behind him, Corey Contemporary. His name equaled 195. It was the 195th day of the year. He was part of the Buffalo Fire Department, not the one in New York, but the one in Pennsylvania. Again, right after that was the GOP convention in Milwaukee, and J.D. Vance became the youngest VP nominee since Teddy Roosevelt. And funny enough, Teddy Roosevelt was shot in Milwaukee, but Teddy Roosevelt became president after McKinley was killed in Buffalo. And McKinley was the 25th president, and here we are in 2025. And we're going to talk about J.D. Vance being at the Vatican on April 19th, the anniversary of Ignatius of Loyola becoming the first superior general, as well as with the Pope today on April 20th. We're going to get to that in a minute because it definitely matters, and I think it tells us how history is going to repeat itself. But yeah, this Deshaun Leith killing, just so repetitive, so obvious. And in light of him being killed on 4/4 by a police officer, 4/4, the same day MLK was killed in 68, shooting equals 44, execution equals 44, officer equals 44, kill equals 44. Not an accident. Far from it. But yeah, another big 56 in the news that's buzzing right now. Now again, Pope equals 56, and J.D. Vance met with the second in command to the Pope yesterday on Ignatius of Loyola Day. Remember, Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, died in 1556, and he founded the Jesuits in Paris, France. Paris, France also equals 56. Again, like Society of Jesus, also like Pope. J.D. Vance recently converted to Catholicism. And if you look up what day he converted, it was August 11th, 2019, 4 days before the Jesuit order's birthday. It was the last Sunday before the Jesuit order's birthday that he converted. And if you measure from August 11th, 2019 to his trip to the Vatican for Easter weekend, it's 68 months and days. 68 months and days. Easter equates to 68. Catholicism equates to 68. Solar system equates to 68. Mathematics equates to 68. Helios equates to 68. Helios is another name for the sun. And remember, the heliocentric model is the one that says the sun is the center of the world that we live in. Everything is orbiting around the sun. And that model was agreed to in the century of the Jesuits, the 16th century. Heliocentrism also equates to 201. And if you're wondering, no, I'm not a flat earther. And I don't think the heliocentric model is incorrect either. But I do think they purposefully encoded the 201 on it in the 16th century. And again, there is a reason that a lot of the world has worshipped the sun. It's very understandable. When I was a child, when I was losing my religion, I started to have the thought, because I didn't even know what the word pagan was when I was 12 years old. But around the same time that I started to realize that my Christian religion didn't make sense and the adults couldn't answer questions and I'm getting punished for asking decent questions and these people aren't righteous and I'm not going along with these people who seem wicked and ignorant to me, I started to wonder, like, why don't people just worship the sun? I started to just have these thoughts on my own, just organically. I was like, the sun is, I mean, without the sun, how do we live? It makes everything possible. That, like, to me, that's worth worshiping. It's worth worshiping the sun. You know, I didn't realize there was such a thing as sun worshipers, but it just made sense. I was like, we don't need to argue about it. It's right there. It comes out. It makes life possible. And keep in mind, I'm growing up in the Pacific Northwest, west of the mountains, where it's cold and wet most of the year. So when the sun does come out in the summer, it's just the greatest thing ever. If you've ever been to a place like Seattle on a clear day, it really is one of the most beautiful places in the world, a place surrounded by mountains. You wouldn't know it 9 months out of the year because it's just it's nothing but clouds and rain. But Yeah, I started having the thought. I was like, why can't we just worship something that's undeniable? The sun. So when people also demonize sun worshipers, yeah, I'm not sure that's right either. I can understand why people are worshiping the sun. But yeah, that is how the Catholic Church began, worshiping the sun. At the time that it makes its final descent and the days start to get a little bit longer. That's what's happening right at the winter solstice, right? That's the darkest day of the year. And then in the days after, they start to get a little bit longer. They start to resurrect. It starts to be reborn. And then by the time you get to the spring, you're like, oh, this is just the greatest. It's beautiful outside. And keep in mind, once upon a time, springtime is when people celebrated the New Year, which also makes sense. Why do we not celebrate the springtime as the New Year? That is when everything is anew. I mean, look outside your window right now. Are the flowers coming out? Is the grass starting to grow again? Are the birds and the bees out? Well, of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's different, right? It's opposite. But in the northern hemisphere, everything is anew. I'll tell you why they moved the New Year to the dead of winter. It's because they are a death cult. They're a death cult. Everything is about death. Fear death. Remember the death. Wear the cross. He died for your sins. It's a death cult. Everything is dead when we celebrate the New Year. And if you follow my work, man, it gets ugly around the New Year. Celebrities are just dropping dead left and right. Anyhow, J.D. Vance at the Vatican. And something that stood out to me is J.D. Vance and Gematria equates to 59, like Pope Francis, like the Vatican. They all equate to 59. And remember, Benedict stepped down on the 59th day of the year for Pope Francis. Pope Francis, if you run Pope Francis in reverse, it equals 58. Forwards is 59. He became a Jesuit in 1958. He earned his one-year status with the Jesuits in 59. The 59th presidential election is the one that Joe Biden won. Exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, he became number 46 when Catholic equals 46. Don't forget, Beau Biden died at 46, 201 days before the Pope's birthday. And the same Jesuit priest, Leo Jeremiah O'Donovan, whose name equals 201, did the funeral for Beau Biden and the inauguration for Joe Biden. And again, inauguration day is the 201st day of the nation's age, and the majority of the world writes that date 20/1, and that was not always the U.S. Inauguration date. It got moved to that, just like how the Capitol got moved to the Jesuit stronghold. And just with regards to the religion and authority and believing and going along with lies, again, our elections, they're completely rigged, they're completely illegitimate, they're completely deceptive, and they even incorporate the Bible. And this year, the chump didn't even put his hand on the thing. This year, when they swore in the chump, he didn't even put his hand on there. And don't forget, he runs on Mega, which is the highest degree of the Church of Satan. And don't forget that Obama, he told the joke at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on the Church of Satan's 45th birthday, April 30th, 2011, with Trump in attendance, that Trump would become number 45. And he also told the joke that he was from Africa, and he showed himself as Simba from The Lion King. Simba equals 44, like he was number 44. Remember, just a couple years ago on Obama's birthday, one of the circulating headlines was the voice actor for Simba was dead for The Lion King's birthday. The winner of the 56th presidential election. But okay, about this 2 days at the Vatican for J.D. Vance. Yesterday on Ignatius of Loyola Day, and today on Easter. Again, I got to put two things together here to think about. We talked about the parallel with McKinley, the 25th president, and his assassination in Buffalo, which brought about Teddy Roosevelt, who was shot in Milwaukee, who was the youngest VP nominee until J.D. Vance, who was nominated in Milwaukee. April 19th, the day that he met with second in command at the Vatican, was the 109th day of the year. The word shooting equals 109. Remember last year, the Dodgers defeated the Yankees in the World Series, getting their 109th win of the year 109 days after the shooting hoax. And Los Angeles equals 109, and so does Yankees. And the last three times the Dodgers beat the Yankees in the World Series was in a year that a president was shot. Trump last year, Reagan the time before, JFK the time before that. And also, don't forget, last year, right before the World Series began, Fernando Valenzuela and Rudy May dropped dead before the game, and they'd pitched against each other in Game 3 of the last World Series between the Yankees and Dodgers, the year Reagan was shot. So 109 has this big shooting connection. It has this big military connection. Military equals 109. It's also the anniversary of the start of the American Revolutionary War. The Shah heard round the world. So fast forward to today, Small Mustache Man's birthday, the 110th day of the year. President equals 110. And for the record, so does Adolf Hitler. The big way Adolf Hitler's 110, who was a president born on the 110th day. At least so we're told. But yeah, a part of me really does wonder if they're trying to tell us that J.D. Vance is a future president, and perhaps it'll come about the same way it did for Teddy Roosevelt. I'll remind people there's something called the Illuminati card game. If you're not aware of this, look it up. It's a fact. It exists. You can buy it. There is a card on there with Donald Trump's face. The card says enough is enough, which translates in Gematria to 78, like how old Trump is right now. Remember, the word Jesuit equates to 78. Order out of chaos equates to 78. Wuhan coronavirus equates to 78. And that pandemic was declared 78 days after Fauci's birthday, who was Jesuit educated at Holy Cross. And his name equals 56, like the virus. We'll come back to that in a minute. Again, I hope I'm not overwhelming you, but these certain numbers are super redundant. 78 is also how many cards are in the tarot deck, and the top cards are Trump cards. Another card game, Illuminati cards, tarot cards. Trump running for office the first time around in the hit show was House of Cards. The president of that show was Francis Underwood, Pope Francis. The other piece about this is, like I said, J.D. Vance became a Catholic 68 weeks before this meeting. 68 weeks. No, excuse me, months. 68 months before this meeting at the Vatican. 68. And think about 1968. That was the year of assassinations. RFK, and now Jr. is part of Trump's administration, and MLK. And again, a lot of big things went down in 68. Just to remind you guys, fentanyl was approved by the feds in 68. Coronavirus was coined as seasonal flu. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. World Trade Center construction began in New York. Timothy McVeigh was born. So was Muhammad Atta. And the list goes on. 68, the year of years. So one to think about with old JD there. Putin. Remember, on the 56th day of the year, the Pope traveled to Russia to plead with Putin to stop the war with Ukraine. This was back in 2022. Pope 56 on the 56th day of the year pleading with Putin. And remember, the war officially began February 24th, which is the day the Jesuits implemented the Gregorian calendar in history. So the war literally began on the anniversary of the start of the calendar by the Jesuits. And if you have forgotten, or you're new to my show, again, remember, the podcast might be new. This might be episode 2, but I've been here every day for nearly 12 years educating about this. Trying a little rebrand here to see if we can get the word out, because it does seem that big tech has squashed us into non-existence. The message has been too on point, so they got to make it seem like we're not even here. But as we're going to get to, man, you guys, I can hardly wait to get to it. That trailer I played for you last week where I said the Hollywood movie is quoting me at the beginning, what I did not realize is they're quoting me through the whole trailer. There's a soft voice playing through the entire trailer in the background. You have to listen carefully. It's literally verbatim the things I said over and over day after day during the time of the pandemic. We'll get right to where the 20-second mark where you can hear exactly how I would say it. Gematria is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words. It's all in the trailer. I'm just like, wow, they really took my words, and they had the actor just repeat it, and they played it through the entire background of the trailer. We're going to get to it. The trailer that begins with the big 56 thing. But anyway, coming back to this, never forget that Putin and Biden met on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, 2021, 201 days after the first ever Jesuit Ignatian year began. 201 days on the nose. Again, the first ever Jesuit Ignatian year began May 20th, Cannonball Day, which was the 500th anniversary of Ignatius Loyola being shot with a cannonball, which changed his life and took him from a warrior to more of a monk. And the Ignatian year ran more than a typical calendar year. It ended July 31st, 2022, which is the day that is celebrated as the Feast of Ignatius Loyola, the day he died. And you might recall the last day of the Ignatian year, Bill Russell died. He was Jesuit educated at University of San Francisco, made his name with the Boston Celtics. He died right after the Warriors beat the Celtics in the finals, dropping the Celtics to 17-5 all time when Golden State equals 175, and so does Pope Francis. You can go back and look at that NBA season, and you can see that was the 75th anniversary season. The Warriors improved to 7-5 in the finals, picking up their 75th road win all time in the postseason in Boston to close it out. But you can go back and look at that season. On the Pope's birthday, December 17th, the Warriors won in Boston and dropped Boston to 7-5 at home that year. The Warriors became 10-3 on the road, and they also won the deciding game of the finals with 103 points on the Ultimate Warriors birthday anniversary. Or maybe don't quote me. It might have been his death anniversary. It's either his birthday or death anniversary. The Ultimate Warrior, and Ultimate Warrior equals 103 like Jesuits. But anyway, when the war began in Russia, Ukraine, not long after Biden and Putin's meeting, it began in the Donbass region, which equates to 201. And since then, there's been a gazillion more 201 rituals with that war, including Biden signing off on $95 billion for Ukraine and Israel on the 201st day of the war in Israel. And of course, the war with Russia and Ukraine is in what used to be ancient Khazaria, which is where the people of Israel come from. All of these things are connected. Again, Catherine the Great, once the leader of Russia, is who preserved the Jesuit order in the time of their suppression, and she preserved the order with 201 Jesuit priests. So fast forward to now, what was the big headline for Easter weekend? Putin decides on an Easter ceasefire. And remember when Tucker Carlson did the interview with him nearly a year ago with his Kabbalah bracelet on, Putin began with a 30-minute introduction of how the war goes back to the history of the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. He was saying it's that history that leads to today's war. Again, religion is the basis of the war. And it's hard to find a war where religion isn't the basis. So if you're the person out there who gets so mad when people speak against religion, again, I'd say why, but we know why, right? Because you believe that if you question your religion, you won't get the eternal afterlife. And because of your selfishness and your greed and your cowardice and all the people just like you, these needless wars will continue on, and people will needlessly be murdered and killed, and lives will be destroyed, all because you're so frightened to disbelieve what the authorities told you. And isn't it just like Cooties 19 too, where the authorities said, if you don't believe us, you're a bad person, you're an evil person, you're killing other people, you're responsible for the death of grandmothers and grandfathers. Do you remember all this? It really was just all the same tactics. Authority and fear. Believe or else. Comply or else. And they use the Bible like a playbook too for the whole thing. My, oh my. But anyway, about this Easter Sunday truce for Putin, just for the record, Easter Sunday equals 44, like ceasefire, like military, like how the war began when Zelensky was 44. And remember, before Zelensky was president, he was an actor in Ukraine, and he was part of a show that was about an ordinary man becoming the president of Ukraine. He also did comedy bits. If you've never seen the footage of Zelensky naked playing the piano with his balls, look it up. That's how big of a goofball this guy is on the world stage. But yeah, the war did start when he was 44. It's a big-time military number, and it speaks to this weekend's ritual as well. It also speaks to Pete Hegseth, who equals 44, who was picked to be the head of the Pentagon on the Superior General's birthday, November 12th. Yeah, Jesuit-educated Trump picked 44-year-old Pete Hegseth, who sent off the accidental signal tweet 44 minutes after the hour. Yeah, look that up. It's all facts. But anyway, he's in the headlines too for apparently including his own family in the Yemen strike information before it happened. But yeah, that's also going on over the weekend. Just another 44 thing. And for the record, if you missed Vladimir Putin's Easter ceasefire, he announced it on Ignatius of Loyola Day, April 19th, reminding you that the Jesuits run the show. The Jesuits run the show. Have you ever noticed how similar Russia's flag is in the U.S. and a lot of these nations? The U.K., France. How many nations are flying the red, white, and blue? Even Thailand, where all the old guys who can't get any go to. If you're an old white guy that can't get any, just fly down to Thailand. Your dollars go far. You'll be drowned. Never mind, I'm not going to finish the sentence. That's where Trump would have to go if he wanted to grab him by the pussy if he wasn't born into that wealthy family. Well, when I go down to Thailand, they let me grab him by the pussy. Okay, so yeah, that also happened this weekend. Just reminding you who's running the show. All right. I am going to play this trailer. And we'll see if they ding me for playing it all the way through. You really, actually, I'm not going to play it all the way through. I encourage you to look this up. Look up the Eddington trailer. E is in elephant, D is in Don, D is in Don, I is in Isaac, N is in Nancy, G is in Gary, T is in Tom, O is in onion, N is in Nancy. Military guys are like, that's not how it goes. Sorry, I'm not in the military. Just for people out there who need it spelled out. Look up the trailer for this. I'm going to play the first 20 seconds. It's very obvious at the beginning. If you're new to my work, what's said at the beginning about Tom Hanks and the lab and 56, these are all things I talked about a gazillion times. I wrote a book about it. Again, you can look up my book, Number Games 9/11 Coronavirus. Coronavirus equals 56. 56 rituals all over the place during the scandemic. But listen very carefully. You can hear that the voice that you hear at the beginning, it fades out because they put other sound over it, but the voice plays through the entire background of the trailer, and it's right at 20 seconds. If you're listening very carefully, you can hear him say, Gematria is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words. A phrase that's come out of my mouth a gazillion times. Check this out. It's crazy. And then we're going to talk more about this movie because it comes out right before my birthday, too. Oh, listen.
Of course, they keep looking at that lab in Wuhan, China. If you look at that lab in Wuhan when that was established, it was 1956. Of course, that was the year Tom Hanks was born, the first celebrity with the virus, Mr. Sleepless in Seattle.
If you value your life, you should think twice.
If you're listening, it said, by the way, Jenny Durkin was the 56th mayor of Seattle, and Lori Lightfoot, where the next virus was the 56th mayor of Chicago. These are all things that I point out a million times. So it's not my actual voice, but no doubt they're reading a transcript of one of my mini YouTube videos or straight from, or paraphrasing what's written in my book. But this whole thing's going through. We're at the 15-second mark right now. And 5 seconds from now, you're going to hear Gematria. If you're listening, it's the background voice, faintly in the background. Gematria is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words.
Because the people of Eddington like guns.
Your pain is not a coincidence. You are not a coincidence.
Could you hear that? If you cannot hear that, pull up this trailer yourself. It starts right at 20. It's from 20 to 23. And Gematria is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words. It's running behind the louder noise on top. If there's anybody out there that's good with audio, I think maybe I don't have the program, but I think like if you buy like I have a Mac, if you buy I think it's called Logic, the audio, you can take an audio file like this and strip all of its layers. I'm almost tempted to buy it just so I can do that to this because it just blows my mind. But yeah, the director, again, who's making this film, I'm pretty sure what happened is I probably got on his radar because I did 2 rather long videos breaking down 2 movies that he made, his 2 biggest movies, Hereditary and Midsummer. Again, if you have not seen these movies, they're disturbing, but I think they're worth watching because I think they're insights into what's going on in this world and into the occult. Hereditary is about a family member who dies, a grandmother, and none of her other family under her realizes that she's part of this cult that's trying to bring a demon into the world, Paimon. And you know what's crazy is I have an old blog. It's freetofindtruth.blogspot.com. They've deleted at least 10,000 posts from it. And as time goes on, they just delete more and more posts from the blog. When I started that blog, Google didn't own it, but Google bought Blogspot. And I've never figured out a way to secure it from Google's hands, but Google's been constantly deleting information from there. They have now deleted even my posts on the Hereditary movie. And it just annoys me, man, that they can do this and just delete. So, because I put a lot of effort into my posts, a lot of screenshots and writing, and some of those posts took me hours to put together, and they're just gone from the internet. And not to mention, I've had 10,000 hours of work deleted from the internet by these people. But, at the time, years ago, I did long videos and blog posts on both of his movies, Hereditary and Midsummer. Again, Hereditary, about a woman trying to bring a demon into the world through this cult. And by the way, the word cult equals 56. So does occultism. They both equal 56. And Midsummer is, again, a movie about... in the beginning, a college student invites some friends to travel with them to where their family hangs out in the summer for summer break. And what the students going along with the friend who gives out the invite, what they don't realize is that this family is not like other families and they sacrifice people. And that's actually why the student's also inviting these friends. He's actually become the friend of these people so that he can lure some sacrifices out to the, I guess the sacrificial grounds. But yeah, this director has made some really interesting movies. And now this Eddington, what it's about is it's set in the time of COVID. And I'm guessing the voice of the person who's saying something like me is the mayor of this fictional town in New Mexico, Eddington, because it says it's like the mayor creates a civil war situation within the town. So I haven't gone to a movie in a theater in a long time, but I think I've been baited into having to go see this one right when it comes out. It's going to come out 3 days before my birthday. But yeah, I'm gonna try and play this again one more time. If you were trying to hear and you didn't hear it the first time, it is very difficult because the sound is being played in the background under a layer of sound that's much louder on top. But I'm going right to the spot where the person begins to say, and gematria is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words.
It's not a coincidence. You are not a coincidence. We are not a coincidence.
I love the coincidence thing right over the top too with the louder layer. I'm gonna have to really pay attention to this, man. Oh my god! No, oh my god! It blows my mind. It blows my mind that this has been done. But check this out too. All right, so this fictional town in New Mexico. Eddington, NM, like how you would write the town on an envelope equals 56, right? And in 2020, all the big stories were 56. You might recall at the beginning of that year, Trump took out Soleimani. And that's a brewing narrative in the background, too, with this underlying possible greater war with Iran through Israel. Remember when Netanyahu came back, he came back into power on Albert Pike's birthday. Albert Pike, who wrote the letter about 3 world wars. That reminds me. I forgot to mention the greater significance of 56. So, and again, different translations of the Bible are different, but in numerous translations of the Bible, Genesis 1 through 11, 56 male names are said. And some of them are repeated. So it's not 56 different names. Some are said multiple times, but there's 56 male names said in Genesis 1 through 11. Society of Jesus equals 56. Jesus equals 11. 56 in numerology is 5 plus 6 is 11. The word Abrahamic equals 56. The word three, when spelled out, T-H-R-E-E, equals 56. There are three Abrahamic religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Three, the Trinity. The word light equals 56. God makes light in Genesis 1:3. In the third verse is where light is made. This is at the very least a large part of where 56 gets its significance from. But in 2020, again, everything was 56. If you spell out 2020, it equals 56. If you spell out Soleimani, again, assassinated at the beginning of the year, 56. Society of Jesus, 56. Washington, D.C., 56. Coronavirus, 56. Anthony Fauci, 56. 2020 was 56 years after Trump's Jesuit education began at Fordham in 1964. Cuomo, the governor of New York, was the 56th governor, also went to Fordham. Gavin Newsom equals 56. He was the first governor to lock down his state, Jesuit educated at Santa Clara. He said 56% of California will get coronavirus in 8 weeks, which is 56 days. Toilet paper equals 56. Do you remember how the coronavirus was selling out the toilet paper at the start of the scandemic? Mind control equals 56. That was a ritual. Again, just telling people anything. It didn't even make sense. How could coronavirus cause toilet paper to sell out? It's not like it was giving everybody diarrhea. Why would it cause a toilet paper shortage? It didn't even make sense, other than if you knew gematria. It's like, look at this. They're just putting anything 56 together. Everything is 56. 56-year-old Boris Johnson announces the 56% more infectious UK strain. Trump promotes Regeneron, the very expensive get well coronavirus thing if you're wealthy. Regeneron, 56. What else happened in 2020? Everyone was in lockdown, and then they gave people an excuse to come outside with the Black Lives Matter riots. Black Lives Matter equals 56. They painted Black Lives Matter on Church Street in D.C. on the 5th day of the 6th month, June 5th. For the record, Ronald Reagan equals 56. He died on that day in history. Church Street in D.C. is 16th Street. Remember, the Jesuits, the 56 gang, they were created in the 16th century, and Washington, D.C. is their stronghold. So do you think it's an accident that Church Street is 16th Street? There were numerous power outages in parts of the world that year as well. Power outage, 56. Natural disasters were terrible that year, 56. Climate change equals 56. A lot of headlines said the silver lining of COVID was that it helped get some of the Agenda 21 and 2030 goals in line to curb climate change, another big fat 56. So many celebrities turned 56 that year. Bill Gates' wife turned 56 that year. She comes from a family of Jesuit priests, has the same birthday as the Jesuit order, August 15th. Bill Gates' protege, Jeff Bezos, turned 56 that year. Dan Brown, who wrote the Da Vinci Code about the Illuminati and the Catholic Church, turned 56 that year. There was something about the Harry Potter author and COVID that was 56. I don't have it on the notes I'm looking at in front of me, but there was another 56 ritual with her. It's escaping me right now. There were food shortages that year. Food shortage, 56. Unemployment became an issue that year. Unemployment, 56. And it all spiraled out from the corona. And don't forget, there was the major death of Kobe Bryant, who was buried in Corona del Mar. Corona del Mar, 56. Kobe Bryant equals 41. He died on the 41st day of the Pope's age while traveling from Catholic Mass. If you've never read my 2017 book, Letters and Numbers, it talks about how all roads lead to Rome. There's a section in there on rig sports and Kobe Bryant and how 41 defined his whole career. That was written 3 years before he died at 41 on the Pope's 41st day of his age, traveling from Catholic Mass. And then they had to tell you that he was in the middle of a pharmaceutical battle over his Black Mamba branding. Don't forget that propaganda film, that half-truth that came out called Watch the Water, that said they were putting snake venom in the water. Watch the Water equals 56. That's the other thing about this knowledge, too. You can see why some stuff goes viral. You can start to see how it's controlled opposition, and it's actually meant to make people look dumb. You know. Problem is, like, a person like me can explain their points and defend their point all day. My work's not getting out there, right? So if people had this knowledge and were as competent with it as I am, they can define their points all day and defeat counter arguments. Again, watch me live debate people on the streets of America, because we've gone out on the streets of America and talked this knowledge and stopped people right in their tracks when they try to come up with the stereotypical insult, oh, coincidence or conspiracy theorist, tinfoil, all this. You shut these people down in no time. But a lot of people aren't getting my information. They're getting the Watch the Water, and they're like, oh, I know what it is. Viper venom's all in the water. That's why. It's just like, come on, man. There aren't enough snakes in the world. Yeah, Watch the Water was another big fat 56. Oh, man. I'm trying to remember the thing that actually went viral right away at the beginning, too. And it got shut down, and then they put out another one and charged for it and made a bundle. That thing, I can't remember the name. It was also 56. It's escaping me. It was like the first documentary about COVID on the internet that only lasted for a number of days, but it got millions of views in those days, and then it got totally shut down. But then it had a whole lot of interest, and they put out a part 2 for money. I can't remember the name, but I do remember it was 56. Controlled opposition's a real thing. All right, so yeah, if you're new here, I just gave you a list of 56. It might have been enough to really make a light bulb go off, but I'm telling you, it was truly the short list, too. There's so many more 56s they did in the time of the scandemic. It was just one 56 after the next, after the next. You'd be watching the news, and the breaking news: Wisconsin is the state with the most antibodies to COVID-19 with 56%. You'd be like, what? God, everything just 56. Okay. So here, just to bring it back today, since it's Easter, and trying to talk about religion and why we need to get rid of it, because it's bad. It's bad. It literally brings bad into the world. It does something to people's brains that make them worse than they should be, keeping people from reaching their potential, turning them into believers instead of thinkers, trusting way too much in authority and fairy tales from authority, rather than having the courage to say, okay, you might be the authority, but you sound full of shit right now. A lot of people need to say that a lot, because it happens all the time. But anyway, Pete Hegseth. Again, go back and look and see what day Jesuit-educated Trump picked him. You'll see it was November 12th, which is the Superior General's birthday. The leader of the Jesuit military order, which again moved the nation's capital to Washington, D.C., and set up that Pentagon. For the record, the word Pentagon equals 38, like death, like murder, like killing, like RIP, like Washington, D.C. is on the 38th parallel. It's a reminder that we deployed troops needlessly to Vietnam on March 8th. Darker complected people died in horribly awful, disproportionate numbers. When Hegseth was sworn in, just barely, it was 38 days after the Pope's birthday. But anyway, here he is today on Easter, and now it's coming out that his message on Signal was also sent to his family. So, and remember, they created this picture that Hegseth's not a reliable human being. He's someone who's suffered with drug and alcohol problems. He's a womanizer. He's shown up to work many a times completely wasted. So, for all the people who don't realize that your entire government's a puppet show, and that's where the phrase political theater came from, and they actually think Hegseth's running the military, or any of these puppets run the military, from the last guy to Mad Dog Mattis. Mad Dog Mattis, there's a gazillion 44. Mad Dog equals 44, so does Mattis, just like Pete Hegseth, who's 44 years old. Again, these people aren't really running anything. They're puppets on strings. They're characters. But for all the people that don't know that, they're thinking, "Oh man, I bet Hegseth was wasted when he sent. I bet he was listening to Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville." You know? No, it's just more divisive crap. And it's what keeps people going like, "Oh, I voted Republican this time, but I'm already ready to vote again. I'm voting Democrat this time. This time I'm going to vote Democrat." You know, that's what they got it right doing. And then the Democrats will be trying to, "Oh, man, I don't know. I think I have to go Republican this time. I think this time I'm going to vote for a Republican." This is what America does. Some people voting every 2 years, some every 4. "Oh, I can't believe it. I don't even know who to vote for this time. I'm going to flip a coin." But yeah, anyway, it's just perfect how they put it together. Signal chat equals Easter in Gematria. So the signal chat's the controversy. Okay, we see why this bring this up on Easter. It equals Easter. Again, Easter Sunday also equals 44, like Pete Hegseth, like military. And did you guys catch the when he was first going through the confirmation process, somebody asked him how he stays fit, and he said he does 5 sets of 47 push-ups a day. I found that funny because obviously the 47 thing, but if you actually do the math on that, that's 235 push-ups a day. If you write out the Society of Jesus, it equals 235. Today is 47 days before his upcoming birthday. How about that? 47 days. The Yemen strikes, the big thing that he shared about that he wasn't supposed to, even with his own family. Yemen strike equals 144, like Jesuit order, like Easter Bunny. And actually, if you pull out the base ciphers, Yemen strike and Easter Bunny equal 144 when you run the alphabetical forwards, 153 when you run it in reverse. Just like, actually, Easter Bunny, Yemen strike, Easter Bunny, and Jesuit order. They're the exact same forwards and backwards, 144, 153 in all three. Yemen strike and Easter Bunny are both 63 when you run it in reverse with numerology. Yemen strike and Jesuit order are both 54 when you run it forwards with numerology. Easter Bunny's 45 in that cipher, reshuffling of the same numbers. But yeah, and remember the bunny, the egg, the rabbit, that goes with Ishtar, which the Christians say has nothing to do with Easter. They just sound similar. And they're both celebrated at the same time. And then those same Christians say, "Bring in the tree in the house has nothing to do with the pagans, even though that's what the pagans did." Okay. What is this? Is it just all denial? Is everything just denial? It is. It is all just denial, isn't it? It's like, don't you see how the Catholic Church, they celebrate the Son's birthday on this day, and then they start celebrating the Son of God on this birthday because they wanted to pull more people into the church, get other people with different beliefs, but they just want them all under their umbrella. So, okay, here. We'll even make it all sound the same. We'll use the same word for the object in the sky and the male offspring. Where Eastar, worshiping the eastern star, the sun, Easter. It's back. It's brighter. Oh my God. Okay, so anyway, there's that too. Do you guys remember, just a blast from the past, do you guys remember the Stevie Steve Facebook live killing on Easter? You remember this one, April 16th, 2017? This reminds me of, I thought I'd finally made it. I thought I was going to change the world. I thought the whole world was going to learn about Gematria on this day. The video I did on the Stevie Steve killing had over 500,000 views within, I want to say it wasn't even 2 hours. Not even 2 hours, 500,000 views. And it was the most quickly viral video I had ever had. And it just had tons of comments. It was really straightforward to explain. On Facebook Live, a 74-year-old in our culture, we'd refer to it as a black man. Again, I tend to not like to call people black and white and all this, but again, just to be understood. A 74-year-old black man. Remember, in Revelation 1:14 through 16, you get the only description of Jesus. In the King James Version, his skin is described as burnt like brass, which would be blacker. His hair is also described as white like wool, A lot of say, "Oh, the wool part's not matter." They're just trying to describe the color of the whiteness of it. It's like, okay, well, white like wool and burnt like brass. I'm picturing somebody a little more African looking here. Anyhow, 74-year-old man, right, on Easter. In the most simple cipher, Jesus equals 74, cross 74, Messiah 74, gospel 74, parables 74. And don't we love how Jesus was nice enough to speak in parables and riddles, and he even explains that he doesn't want to be understood? Like this. So God sends a son to earth to speak so that nobody can be understood and call non-Jewish women dogs. What a... Where can I get down on my knees and worship this God right now? Oh, man. What have I been missing out on? Anyway. Wikipedia has been nice enough to... If you guys look up the Wikipedia, the Stevie Steve killing of Robert Lee Godwin Sr., Wikipedia has been nice enough to update that he was killed at 2:01 p.m. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. He was killed at 2:01 local time. And then what else it says is he was killed on East 93rd Street. That's cute too, because crucifix equals 93, God's son equals 93, Nazareth equals 93. Science in 2012 said Jesus was crucified on April 3rd, which is the 93rd day of the year. The sun in the sky is said to be 93 million miles away on average. Both Robert and Cleveland, for the record, equal 33. The common belief that Jesus was crucified in 33. Robert Lee Godwin was born in 42, like the New Testament begins with the 42 generations to Jesus. New Testament equals 42, as does sin. It's like the 42 laws of Ma'at from Egypt. The first rule of the 42 laws of Ma'at is, I will not sin. Jesus died for your sins is the belief. There's even more to this killing of Robert Godwin, but yeah, the Facebook, or not Facebook, the Wikipedia update that he was killed at 2:01 p.m. You know what? Just in real time here, I'm gonna see. I'm gonna search Robert Lee Godwin Jr. or not Jr. Senior Easter killing 2:01 p.m. I'm gonna see if any news publication said he died at 2:01 other than Wikipedia. Did CNN report it this way? Oh, wow. Oh, okay. So I pulled up the CNN article. It did have a 2:01 in it, but actually what it is CNN's video, the manhunt for the killer. The story of the manhunt for the killer is 2 minutes and 1 second long. Go figure. Shows one of those armored vehicles in Cleveland that all the police departments got after 9/11. Remember when the founder said you didn't want standing armies in your country? That was a great sign of tyranny. And then after 9/11, when two towers become one, all of a sudden all the police forces look just like the military. Armored vehicles, crazy body armor, upgraded weaponry. Nobody knows what hit them. Straight up art of war. Don't forget, art of war, the only reason we know about that text is because of the Jesuit priest, Father Amiot. And don't forget how they put the Art of War code on everything either. Art of War equals 102, the reflection of 201, just like World War. Again, 9/11 was simulated by the feds with Amalgam Virgo on June 1st, 2001, 102 days before the attack. Cover document is Osama bin Laden's face. Al-Qaeda equals 102. From the cooties pandemic being declared to the war in Ukraine beginning was 102 weeks later. And remember, right as they were ending cooties, they fired up the war in Ukraine. They got to keep the wars going, from war on germs to funding the war in Ukraine. There's always got to be a war to make sure the bankers are making their money. Taxpayers pay the bill plus the interest. People at the top collect. The church, the original bankers, the instigators of so many wars. Speaking of 201, also buzzing in the news yesterday on Ignatius Loyola Day. Remember Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, 201. 201's a lot like 21. The Jesuit order equals 201 the big way. Jesuit the small way equals 21. Yesterday, buzzing in the news, a young college football player dead at 21, supposedly from an accidental gunshot. His birthday, June 13th, the day leaving 201 days left in the year. Same day Netanyahu stepped down before he came back to power on Albert Pike's birthday. And what's sad is from his birthday, June 13th, to the day the news broke of his accidental death by gunshot. Remember, by shooting on the 109th day of the year, shooting 109. From his birthday to the news breaking was the 311th day of his age. 311 is 201 in base 8 counting. Do you remember how Event 201 was the pandemic simulation and the pandemic was declared on March 11th or 311? Again, 201 and 311 have a direct mathematical relationship. Also, another number that has a direct relationship with 201 in mathematics is 256. 256 is the 201st composite number. April 19th, Ignatius Loyola Day, is the day leaving 256 days left in the year. It's the 109th day of the year, leaving 256 remaining. So, day has a double 201 connection, and young McGee is the one who's announced dead on this day. And McGee equals 21 like Jesuit. He died 44 weeks and days after his birthday as well, shooting 44, shooting also 109 to go with the 109th day of the year. In back-to-back weeks, young, darker complected football players from college football are dead right before the NFL draft. You pay attention, this goes on every year, like clockwork. And just wait as the football season approaches, college and NFL, there'll be numerous more young, darker complected men that die. College and pro. Guaranteed. And I hate to say that. It's not like I want to see it happen. It happens every year without fail. Clockwork. Every year. Every year. As sure as the sunrise. Yeah, it's sick. It's sick. Another pattern, if you're new here, that I'll talk about all the time with death is 67. Blood sacrifice and human sacrifice equals 67. Satanic equals 67. Soul equals 67. S-O-U-L. Save your soul. So many people die in the world of entertainment on 67 date numerology. This young man reportedly died by accidental gunshot the day before the news broke on April 19th. April 18th, 2025, 4 plus 18 plus 20 plus 25 was a date with 67 numerology. Yeah, it's just... Here, just to read that description of Jesus, since this was also right before Easter, time to remember the resurrection. Revelation 1:14 through 15. And his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice is the sound of many waters. It's a reminder that, Tupac, when he died on Caesar Borgia's birthday. Caesar Borgia is where white Jesus comes from. He was the son of a pope. Machiavelli wrote The Prince based on Caesar Borgia. After Tupac died, 53 days later, they put out the Machiavelli album, a play on Machiavelli. And they put it out on Remember the 5th of November, the day in history that the Jesuits tried to blow up King James. And then years later, in 2016, when Prince died, on May 3rd, the real Machiavelli's birthday, just after Prince's death on April 21st, they announced the death of Tupac's mother. Tupac's mother's death was announced on the real Machiavelli's birthday shortly after the death of the prince, when, again, Machiavelli wrote The Prince based on Caesar Borgia. And don't forget, Tupac Shakur equals 139. He died on the 13th of September. He died 2 years to the day of the nation's assault weapons ban and the big hit song on the Above the Rim soundtrack, Regulators, Mount Up, gun regulators. Tupac was in Above the Rim. Telling you, all this stuff is connected. It's all major ritual. Show business is deadly business. And at the end of the day, it's the Jesuits running the show. And for all the people out there who say, well, why would they be sacrificing people? Why wouldn't the Society of Jesus be sacrificing people? Isn't the whole religion about how God sacrificed his son? A man with dark skin and hair like wool? It'll start to make sense when you see all these young black celebrities dying left and right every other week once your eyes are open. Yeah, it'll make perfect sense. And what's sad is, I remember when I went out to Buffalo to explain why there was a white supremacist shooting up a black grocery store on Israel's 74th birthday when white supremacist equals 74 like Jewish. And again, you read the book of Enoch, it becomes abundantly clear that the original Hebrews were darker complected people, like how Jesus is from Judea. White supremacy, huh? Israel, huh? Khazaria, huh? But anyway, I was out there explaining all this to him, and this woman came up to me, and she goes, "First of all, you're the wrong color in this neighborhood right now." And I had a nice crowd of people listening to me. I was out on the streets of Buffalo. I spent like 4 or 5 days out there educating about this. And I'd said a long time in advance why there was going to be a horrible act just like what there was on Israel's 74th birthday. It was highly predictable. And don't forget how they synced it up with O.J. Simpson, who was 74 years old at the time. Again, Buffalo fell apart when they took the Bills out of Buffalo and moved him to Orchard Park. And don't forget what they did to O.J. either with his recent death. It was a tribute to Ephesians 6, verses 5 through 9. Slaves, obey your masters. Slave equals 59 when you run the alphabetic order forward. 76 in reverse. OJ dead 59 days after the last Super Bowl, dead at 76, and he was dead as the Masters teed off. They announced the death as the Masters golf tournament teed off. Slaves, obey your masters. They showed OJ in a Titleist hat in a golf cart the day he died. The last time anybody saw him was him playing golf the day of the Super Bowl 59 days earlier. But anyway, I was out there and this woman came up and she said, "First of all, you are the wrong color to be out here right now. And second of all we need right now is Jesus." Oh, man. Now, thank God not everybody in her neighborhood felt just like her. I had 2 fine gentlemen out there who were Moors from the community. They took me on a nice tour of Buffalo. They showed me how much they have to pay in taxes and how big the potholes are out there, big enough to swallow your car. I said, where is our tax money going to? Because our whole community is dilapidated, but we got to pay a lot in taxes. Anyway, they drove me through the whole community. They said, "You see how bad our community is? You see how bad it is? You see how poor it is here? You see how the only nice buildings around here are the churches? See those nice caddies in front of the church? These bishops, they don't just have one nice caddy. They got 2 nice caddies. Nobody else has a nice caddy in the neighborhood." They say, we call them Pastor Biscuit because they're just sucking it all up. They're just sucking it all up, Pastor Biscuit. This is what I mean, you guys. Religion makes people dumb. Dumb. Your whole community is broke. There's nothing good coming to it. You're poor. And what are you doing? You're going and giving your money to the one guy in town who doesn't need it. The guy selling you a load of shit every Sunday. Come bring me some more money. When I was out there, a man came with an entourage around him. I was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And the media was talking to him. And then after the media got done talking to him, I walked up to him and I said, "Hello." I said, "I'm an author." I said, "I'm out here educating about something a lot of people don't know about." I said, "You might be interested in it as a man of the cloth." He said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" I said, "Have you ever heard of this Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words?" He said, "I don't think so." I said, "Gematria." He said, "I don't think so." So I told him about just, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, how the ancient biblical languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, ancient Greek, how every letter was a number. He said, "Oh yeah, I heard something about that." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, it's very similar with English." I said, "Look at this: Jesus, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, Jewish, occult, Masonic, English, Gematria." I said, all these words, energy, all of them equate to 74. When you just do A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, just turn in the letters and numbers. He's like, "Wow, that is interesting." I said, "Yeah, it's kind of like this nation's birthday. Holiday equals 74. The nation's birthday, we write it 7-4. He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Now, learning this, do you find it interesting that, on the 74th birthday of Israel, out of all days, this would happen here in your community?" And he's like, "Huh." He said, "I didn't realize that. 74th birthday of Israel." I said, "Yeah, May 14th. And then I showed him how white supremacist equaled 74. I said, he was a darker complected man. I said, "Have you ever heard the idea, like the Hebrew Israelites are all over the neighborhood too?" I said, "Have you heard the idea, like what they're saying about, the actual people from the Old Testament looking more like you?" He's like, yeah. He's like, I hear that. I said, "Do you ever talk to the people in your church about these things?" He's like, "Oh, no, that's something I can't do." And I was like, See what I mean? You just got to toe the line, right? Because see, he's made it. He's made it in the religious game. He had a very nice suit on, nice shoes, entourage. I don't know. He was one of the pastor biscuits in the neighborhood for sure. He looked like the wealthiest guy I saw in the neighborhood the whole time. And again, he was interested in what I said, but then when I asked if he would ever share this with his community, oh no, I'm not giving. Do you look at me? I'm giving up. I mean, you guys, religion's trash, okay? And the only people who are into it, and I see, there's people that say things a lot nicer than I do, but I'm sorry, man. If you are into religion, you're just dumb, and you're choosing to be dumb, okay? Sometimes you got to hear the harsh truth. I'm not saying you're permanently dumb, but if you're religious in 2025 and you're still choosing to hang on to this bullshit, you are choosing to be dumb, okay? Point blank, period. These religions are total bullshit. They're totally problematic. They're helping people not reach their pinnacle. They're helping people get rid of their own power. They're waiting on mythology to come save them, which is never going to happen. They're allowing these religious tyrants to keep us divided. Look at all the dummies that think Mr. Mega Church of Satan was sent back by God. I mean, it just defines exactly what religion does. It blinds people to the obvious. They can't even decipher Sunday and sun worship and why the Sabbath day was moved to it, or Easter, as they say the word every year. It's Easter. Yeah, the Easter. What rises in the east? And again, I'm not even mad at sun worship. It's just these people don't even see what's being done. They are believing in some mythology given to them to captivate their minds. And ultimately serve the interests of something that doesn't serve their interests. It only uses and abuses them. All right. Just other things buzzing today. Family loses acquired daughter to Columbine shooting 26 years later. Did you guys see this? That this is in the news, and they added one more death tally to Columbine that just happened. They're adding one more official death to Columbine from a death that just happened. And again, they're only doing this so they can put this back in front of your face. And I'll remind people, when Columbine happened, carried out supposedly by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, CNN did a story about how they journaled that they wanted to hijack planes and fly them into skyscrapers in New York City. Look at their birthdays. One of their birthdays is April 9th, like gun control equals 49. And the other one's birthday is September 11th. Oh, that's weird. They supposedly wanted to hijack planes and fly them into skyscrapers in New York, and one of their birthdays was 9/11, and it happened shortly before 9/11. Again, it happened April 20th, 1999. I was in high school. We had to start wearing name badges. And then I had my security guard, this fat guy named Steve. He'd go, Hey, Hubbard, where's your name badge? It's like, God, how dumb is this guy? The hell do I need to wear a name badge for when you're calling out, Hey, Hubbard? Hey, Hubbard, where's your name badge, Hubbard? God. Save me from the stupid land. Been saying that over and over. But anyway, this story is comical. So this woman who was connected to the shooting who survived, she self-deleted herself. And they're saying it's from the trauma from Columbine. So now they've counted her death, which just happened, as an official Columbine death. They're saying she took her own life at age 43. Keep in mind, Colorado equals 43. 43 is the 14th prime number. She is now the official 14th death of the Columbine mass shooting in 2025. And, well, this is in the news, but they're saying, okay, so this is in the news right now. CNN's covering this story. Other media syndicating it. CNN's been running this story. If you've been watching CNN today, trust me, I hate watching all of these channels, but I only do it to inform the populace of the way we were getting played. She reportedly took her own life earlier this year on February 16th. That's the 47th day of the year. SUICIDE equals 47. And they're saying that's what she did. But they're saying she's now an official death of Columbine, statistically. And that's why there's that book, How to Lie with Statistics. And don't forget, when Cooties 19 was underway, they took a picture of Bill Gates with a stack of books, and the one right on top was How to Lie with Statistics. I was like, God, I hate these people, man. I hate these people. Woo! I did a short video. Again, if you're enjoying this podcast and you're not following my GematriaEffectNews 25 channel, I do put out content every day there. Yeah, yesterday, the big story was that yesterday being Saturday, April 19th, Ignatius Loyola Day, that the Supreme Court temporarily paused the Trump administration from being able to deport immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act. Again, to make a long story short, everything going on with the Trump administration is 47. The Alien Enemies Act came out of the war with France, the same place the Jesuits are from. France equals 47, as do the letters DC, as does Trump, as does Judge. And again, the Supreme Court justices pause on Ignatius Loyola Day, a man who founded the Jesuits in France. And if you look at when the Alien Enemies Act was created, it was July 6th, 1798. From the anniversary of that date, July 6th to April 19th, was exactly 41 weeks on the nose. Alien equals 41. So does USA. 41 is the 13th prime. This is the land of 13 stripes, 13 colonies. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse, for the record, alien equals 94. And the reason that's so interesting is the first official UFO sighting is in Seattle. Seattle, Washington equals 94. That was Bill Gates' breakout year, by the way. Remember, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Bezos also started Amazon in 94. They both started their businesses in New Mexico, Roswell land, and they both moved them up to Seattle on the 47th parallel. They went from the 47th state, New Mexico, to the 47th parallel. But the first official UFO sighting was in Seattle in 47, passing by Mount Rainier. Rainier's 47. Then New Mexico and Roswell. Seattle, Washington, again, has this gematria value of 94, like alien, when you run it in reverse. What's really interesting is if you measure from 1947 to the year 2041, it's 94 years later. So if you got a calendar for 2041, I'm pretty sure they're going to go nutso with the alien propaganda. Because you see how that, like, as the years go by, they're trying to build up this alien narrative more and more, little droppings here. Certain government officials coming out going, oh, yeah, there's definitely aliens that for a week they'll have, but, oh, look at this footage from a military aircraft. I mean, it's impossible to explain what that is. It's got to be alien. You know, they like to do this stuff every now and then. This is all a slow buildup. I'm telling you, the way these people operate by the numbers, how do they not do something major in 2041? Alien 41 and 94 in 94 years after Roswell and the Rainier sighting. It's coming. 2041. How many years we got? About 16. Okay. Let's see. I almost feel bad doing this. I got to play this clip, though, because it really is going to cement my point about the emptiness of religion and how you might think it's helping you, but it's actually not. We're going to play the voice of somebody. You might recognize this person's voice. There's somebody who steals my work. They literally plagiarize it, and then they pass it off as their own, and they beg for money. And I wouldn't even say anything about it because other people take my work and sell it. A lot of people sell my sports picks for even more than I put them out for. I charge people $5. Some people just copy and paste them and sell them for $100. I honestly don't care. If I'm helping people in this way to pay for themselves, plagiarize all day. But this person whose voice I'm about to play, the thing that I don't like about them is they slander my name all the time. They make up things about me. They lie about me. They try to make me look really bad. They've put out rumors that my wife is actually a man. And they do it all in the name of Jesus. And they recently released a 5-minute video. Over the years, they've been around since 2020. He came out of nowhere in the time of cooties. And he's been doing this ever since. Presenting my work as his and slandering my name and always giving thanks to Jesus. He's had to take some breaks here and there because he has these moments of weakness. The point I want to make is other Christians who've tried to slander my name and who've gone toe to toe and tried to debate me and gotten, pretty humiliated. A call for an uprising, if you know who that person is in the world. Him and I got into a debate in 2016. He looked absolutely horrible. He retired from YouTube for a few months, and then he came back and made a false documentary and slander. But the point I'm making is these are people who say they're Christians, and if they truly were righteous and they had the power of God within them, they should have something greater than I do, because I do believe there's a creator, and I do think I am serving a creator. Creator gave us this opportunity to live. I think we should live our best life to honor the fact that we're here. Again, I was raised Christian. I took what I thought was positive from Christianity. I like some of the stories of Jesus about living a life of service and being a teacher and helping those in need, even though Jesus didn't always do that. There's good things in the Jesus story. And I took what was good and I left the rest. And there's good things in every spirituality. Again, the golden rules taught in every spirituality. But the point I'm making is I have been here every day for going on 12 years. I haven't needed any breaks except for the one day that I just couldn't post because my house was robbed and ransacked and I had to spend the whole day cleaning the house. And I had to get a computer the next day because my stuff was stolen. So I couldn't do anything that day because of situation. There's been one day, it'll be 12 years in August. We're almost at 12 years. There's been one day that I was not able to put out work, and it's because I was physically incapable because of what had happened to me. But I cleaned up my house that day, and I went out and got what I needed to get back on the job the very next day. And it was really tough because I also lost a ton of money that day in my business. My world was upside down. But I said, you know what? I'm going to continue with the mission of putting out this knowledge of the way we're being lied to by authorities and how we're being manipulated by this code because people need to know about it. There's real power in this that could change the world we live in. Now, I want to play the voice of this guy who's all about Jesus, who again steals from yours truly, copies his work, doesn't give credit, and slanders. I just want you to hear, because again, I think he's representative of a Christian. Keep in mind, when my house got robbed, it was because I helped out my Christian neighbor who was 20 years older than me, who was down on his luck. He knew I was doing well at the time. It turned out he was jealous of how I was doing because not only did he steal from me, after he stole, he went out and bought the exact same vehicle I owned with the money he stole from my house and did a remodel on his house and got new furniture for his house, and God knows what he did with all the rest of it because I lost a lot. It's embarrassing how much I lost. I had a nice cash crop business, to make a long story short. But anyway, I was trying to be like a Christian there, help out your neighbor. And he wasn't even that nice of a guy, and I knew that, but he was my neighbor, and I was in a position to help him. I helped him. He got excited, and he figured out I had cash in the house, and he came back and stole and got more than he ever deserved. But anyway, here, I'm going to let this play. It's about 5 minutes. I'm just going to let it play. I'm going to put it in 1.25 speed, so it's a little bit faster. But I just want you to hear this supposed man full of Christ and what's going on in his life. And actually, I also want to point out that he is going to bring up that he has had some tragedies in his life. His father did pass away last year, and he did make a video at the time kind of like demeaning his dad when he died, about how he didn't really know his dad because he was hardly ever part of his life. He was in jail for most of his life. He was a drug addict. He was mostly raised by his mom. But when his dad died, he didn't say anything nice about his dad. I was like, God, he dissed his dad after he died, but I guess they didn't have much of a relationship. But now it's funny. Now he's making it seem like it's the reason that his life's falling apart here. So I'm like, oh, what's the real story here? You'll see how he gets to the grift at the end and he begs for money. I just want you to hear the weakness. That's what I want you to hear. The weakness of this man. And I don't do it to be mean. I do it to make a point. There's so many nasty, fake, fraudulent Christians. To me, it also just shows the worth of this fake mythology that's holding the world down, creating wars, making people stupid, making people fall for a guy like this. If you read his comments, there's just a whole bunch of suckers in the comments. They're like, Joseph, you're a real legend for the things you've discovered. He hasn't discovered anything. All he does is plagiarize my work. Never made a single discovery in his life. He just copies what I say word for word. They don't know my work, though, other than the slanders he puts out. So, again, this is the thing about cults, too. You'll start worshiping other people within the cult who don't deserve to be worshiped. This is a bad human being. And here he is. Let's hear how weak he is.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Joseph. Quick and simple gospel. Yeshua, Jesus, came to this earth, lived a perfect 33 years, was crucified on a cross for our sins, buried in a tomb for 3 days, and rose from the grave on the third day, We are saved through faith in Christ alone and by no other name. Amen. Guys, I'm taking a break from YouTube to work on my mental health. End-time spiritual warfare is off the charts. I haven't been able to sleep in over a week except for just a couple hours here and there. I haven't been able to get a good night's sleep in a long time. Most of you don't know this, but I have severe OCD, perfectionism, anxiety, and depression. Many recent issues have sent me into a spiral. My computer is having issues.
So why doesn't Jesus come down and cure it all for him? Where's Jesus the miracle worker?
My phone is having issues. I feel burnt out and overwhelmed. My dad died from a drug overdose back in August. That was the same week my YouTube channel got deleted, the one that had 18,000 subs. And then just 3 months after my dad died, my wife's dad died. Who
Again, if you're going to plagiarize the guy of a work, or the work of a man whose channel's been deleted 20 some times, you better expect your channel to get deleted. I mean, this is just common sense.
was living with us, very close to us and the grandchildren. My wife is going through a lot, and my attitude lately has been unacceptable. I'm always in a bad mood, and that's not okay. I need to find myself again, or maybe really for the first time. I'm awake, and I know we are in the last days, but I feel I am not living right. I'm letting fear win and not having enough faith. I'm constantly worried that my whole life will fall.
The whole basis of the Christian religion is fear. If you don't believe, you're going to go to hell forever. That is the basis of the religion, and it's why almost everyone believes. The whole thing is fear. So, of course, you're letting fear win if you're a Christian.
Apart at any moment. I'm constantly in fear that things will go wrong. I need to draw closer to Jesus. I need to step away from YouTube to work on my relationship with God, my wife, our 4 children, and myself. To be honest, I don't think much of myself. I feel like a failure for the most part. I'm planning on stepping away for the next 50 days. In those 50 days, I will be fixing my relationship with my family and getting closer to God. I will still make community posts over that time and might even do a few decodes or walk and talks. If there is anything world-changing, like 9/11 or COVID, I will cover it. I will be back full-time eventually. Please don't give up on me. The other thing I need to mention is I can't exactly go 50 days with no financial support. So if you guys could help me keep afloat while I'm gone, it would be very much appreciated. I know that's a lot to ask, but hopefully the work I did over the last 5 years will lead people to continue helping me while I'm gone. And if you guys want to help out, here's how you can help out. I got PayPal, Zelle, CashApp, VenMo, or you can mail something. And yeah, I know that's a lot to ask, but like I said, if there's, anything I said over the last 5 years that, had an impact on you, if you guys could just support me while I'm gone, it would mean the world to me. And again, I'm not going to be gone completely. I'll be making community posts. If there's any huge news, I'll cover it. Maybe I'll do a couple walk and talks. But yeah, guys, I'm going through a lot. And I pray this isn't the end for me on YouTube. I hope I can come back better and stronger than ever. I'm giving it all to God. My fears, doubts, finances, marriage, and YouTube, it's all in His hands. And I'm so sorry if I've let anyone down by needing this break. I pray that you guys understand how I'm feeling. I have known many of you for 5 years now, and I love you all like family. I need your prayers and support now more than ever. Please pray for me and my family. I love you all. Thank you all for everything, and I will see you guys soon. As always, keep looking up. We are living in the biblical end of days. Jesus is coming very soon. I can't wait. And I'll see you guys on the next video. God bless.
I'm sorry, man. I gotta laugh. I gotta laugh, man. I gotta laugh. He just sounds so pathetic. And he's a pathetic human being, and so is his wife. His wife's a complete joke, too. She's an internet troll, and they're both fat slobs. And that's the other thing, too. I let them post on my platform that I pay for where they promote themselves. It's like, wow, they even come on my platform to promote themselves. And God, just horrible people. Yeah, the reason you feel like you're a loser is because you are. And notice your fake religion doesn't help you at all from all your mental dysfunction. Um, yeah, again, you should build yourself up on things that are real. Your fears, tackle them. Your shortcomings, work on them. Put in effort. You're scared to talk in front of people. Do it until you're not scared anymore. You don't have enough skills to do this. Work on it until you do. Again, the phrase faith without works, prayer without works is dead is the truest phrase there ever was. And it's the works that really make things work a lot more than the prayer. But yeah, that guy is just so pathetic. Of course, a while back, we had to laugh at his footage when he went on the Christian campus parking lot and started screaming at the Christians like a maniac. He was like, he can't even get along with his own flock. This guy is insane. And then he got chased off the parking lot by about 3 guys who were in their mid-70s. And he's driving away. He's like, God, that was terrifying. Did you see the way they were coming at me? I was like, God, dude, you're scared of like men that are practically in walkers? That guy is, I mean, he is the definition of the word pathetic. Yeah, again, just a classic example of what religion does. Just makes people weak, incompetent, lazy. And it was funny listening to him turn the page on his script that he wrote there. It probably was, he probably typed into Chat GPT. Give me a tearjerker grift thing that will appeal to fellow Christians in the flock. Put something in there about my dad dying. Because he didn't even care when he actually died. Now when he needs the money, he's like, oh, my dad died and my world's falling apart. All right, let's rewind the tape and see what you said at the actual time he passed. And don't forget, you guys, the weird thing is that his last name, that person's last name, is the same last name as the 5th Superior General of the Jesuits, and his dad died 5 days after the anniversary of that person's death. It's like, And he did come out of nowhere when I was connecting the dots big time with how the Jesuits were behind the scandemic. All of a sudden, he appears on the stage, slandering my name every day, copying my work, giving no credit. Yeah. There was something very weird about that. So, all right, yeah, it might feel a little bit mean, but at the same time, it cements the point of what was being said throughout tonight's episode. So, to recap, religion. To be fair, all things are good and bad. You could point to some things that are good in religion, but you always have to weigh the scales. At the end of the day, religion is the basis of almost every war happening on this earth. It puts people in a state of believing and not thinking, which is just fundamentally bad. A lot of religion is fear-driven. Christianity is completely fear-driven. It's all fear. It's believe or else, believe or eternal damnation. It's exploiting human psychology. You see that's how every authoritarian tyrant type operates, through fear. And again, it makes perfect sense. You start to look at how it was the Society of Jesus that simulated the scandemic. The whole scandemic's fear-driven. You see how it was the Society of Jesus that was behind September 11th, and everything after September 11th was fear, fear, fear. If we don't give up these rights and liberties, it'll be a dirty bomb. It'll be a suitcase bomb. It'll be blah, blah, just every night on the TV. If you don't give up your rights and liberties, if you don't submit to this surveillance state, this Patriot Act, it's going to be 9/11s all over every day, all day. And then you see that all that was bullshit because apparently the border's wide open and anybody can come in here. And somehow, some way, there hasn't been any suitcase bombs or dirty bombs. Just a bunch of BS. And then, not to mention, you look at even a group like Al Qaeda. Where did it come from? It came from the CIA. You know, came from our own government. Our own government is creating these evil things so that they can have a boogeyman out there to justify their militaristic expansion. And again, just using religion all along the way, and the divisions in religion, over and over, over and over. It's the same story. So. In the live chat tonight, somebody says to recover your posts that have been deleted, perhaps you could do it with the Wayback Machine. I'm going to look into that. If somebody wants to try that out right now, I used to have posts on Midsummer and Hereditary on my blog on freetofindtruth.blogspot.com, and they're both gone, along with a lot of other posts. I hadn't looked up those posts in a while. I thought they'd be there for sure, and both of them were gone, and I was like, wow, they even got rid of those? And one more time, if somebody out there can take that trailer and extract the layers of audio and separate them, I know there's a way to do that. If we had like a producer out there or something, I would love to hear the entire audio track that runs through the entire background of that video. Because I know that it was pulled directly from one of my YouTube videos. And it's like, is there some kind of, I know, like, if somebody makes a song and it's very similar to another song. Years ago, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they made Danny California, and then Tom Petty's band sued because they said that they took the beat from Mary Jane's Last Dance or something like that. And then recently there was the, what was that song? It was a big hit on the radio. Was it Rob Thomas's song? I forget. Maybe he collaborated with somebody else, but they took the Marvin Gaye song. They took the beat to the Marvin Gaye song, and there was a big lawsuit for that. I mean, these things happen time and time again in the world of music. Now, if you took somebody's exact words and you put that into the dialogue of the movie and made it the trailer for the movie, is this not something similar? Are we entitled some royalties from this movie, Eddington? Because, man, we got to figure out one way to fund this movement. I know that is my quote. By the way, Andrew L., you know who you are if you're out there, Andrew L. You keep putting Benjamins in my bank account through Zelle quite continuously. I appreciate that a lot. And Andrew L., also, if I don't know what your cash situation is, but if anything ever changes in your life and you ever need your money back, you be sure to reach out to me because you have been quite generous. So if you're out there, Andrew L., thank you. Yeah, Blurred Lines is the song. You're right. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Blurred Lines, Marvin Gaye, lawsuit. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. You're taking my quote from my YouTube. You're taking my words out of my book and making a movie about it? I feel like I should at least here. Can I at least get an acknowledgement? Can I get something in the credits? Maybe help spread the word a little bit. I bet the beginning of the movie's going to say inspired by true events, and then it won't say what those true events were. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Let's close out by reading the what they got about this film on the Wikipedia. Oh, by the way, I like where they filmed the movie. They filmed I didn't realize that this was the name of a town in New Mexico. It was filmed in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Isn't that beautiful? Truth or Consequences. And I found it interesting because that town's on the 33rd parallel on the 107th meridian west. Zachary equals 107. It was also partly filmed in Albuquerque. Eddington, for the record, in the base ciphers. Again, remember there's 4 base ciphers. Eddington in the most simple cipher equals 92. The trailer came out April 17th, 92 days before the July 18th release. COVID-19 equals 92. The movie is set in the time of COVID-19. With numerology, Eddington equals 47 like New Mexico. Remember, yours truly has the license plate behind him at all times that says, what is 47? Again, if you're new here, 47 is a number of time and authority. Very important in the ritualism as well. In reverse, Eddington equates to 151 like pandemic. Remember, they said the first case of cooties in the world outside of mainland China landed in Seattle in Bill Gates' backyard on 15/1. And don't forget, Bill Gates started in New Mexico. And at least he started Microsoft in Mexico, that is. And then Eddington in reverse with numerology equals 43, just like pandemic. And you might recall that, I think it was Hulu, did the TV series of 12 Monkeys. And right at the beginning, again, 12 Monkeys has to do with the pandemic. Right at the beginning, they put up a big fat 43 on the screen about this pandemic in 43 that changed humanity. That's it. That's not in the movie. That's in the TV show that came out around the same time. But yeah, Eddington equals pandemic in 2 of the 4 ciphers, but also, again, 47, going with New Mexico, the 47th state, and 92, like COVID-19, and also the trailer coming out 92 days before the movie releases. And by the way, the movie releasing on July 18th, 18/7, like 187, again, it's the Jesuits. Society of Jesus equals 187. It also equals 56. Just like Washington, D.C., just like Adolf Hitler, just like Anthony Fauci. Try out the 4 base ciphers with Anthony Fauci in Washington, D.C., and notice how it's a perfect match in every cipher. It says Eddington is an upcoming American contemporary Western film written and directed by Ari Aster and starring Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Luke Grimes, Deirdre O'Connell, Michael Ward, or is it Mikhail Ward? Austin Butler. That's the guy who won the Best Actor for Elvis. Remember, Elvis's recording career started at 54. He won the Golden Globe 54. Then Elvis's daughter was dead at 54 right after. Jesuit Order 54. The Jesuit headquarters at the Church of the Jesus building 54. Sun equals 54. Elvis recorded at Sun Records. A Golden Globe is the sun in alchemy terms because the sun is gold. The film will have its world premiere at the main competition of the 2025 Cannes Film Festival and will open in theaters on July 18, 2025. It's going to debut on the last day of Cannes, which is May 24th. Remember, that's the 144th day of the year, like Jesuit Orders 144. It says the premise, in May of 2020, a standoff between a small-town sheriff, Joaquin Phoenix, and Mayor Pascal sparks a powder keg. Reminds me of, remember the 5th of November. Powder keg is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico. Joaquin Phoenix's character is Joe Cross. What's more Catholic than the cross? Pedro, meaning father. Did you guys see who won today in sports on Easter? The Padres, the Fathers, the Angels, and who lost was the Devils in hockey. You gotta love it. Pedro Pascal is Ted Garcia, the town's mayor who is running for re-election. Emma Stone is Louise Cross. That must be, Joe's wife, the sheriff's wife. Okay. Austin Butler as Vernon Jefferson Peake. I don't know these other actors' names well. I'm wondering whose voice is being used to say what I said a gazillion times. Those are the main characters because nobody else has a description. It says the production for the film. Ari Aster wrote a script for a contemporary Western film that he had at one point considered making as his directorial debut. He tried to make it for about 5 years before deciding to make Hereditary and Midsummer. Those are the 2 movies that I've done work on in presentations, which has now been deleted from the internet. While promoting his 3rd film, Beau is Afraid. Beau is Afraid? Oh boy. This is about Beau Biden and what happened to him. Aster indicated that his next film would likely be a Western and that he had updated it to take place during the COVID-19 pandemic. Emma Stone and Christopher Abbott were attached to star in the film in January 2023, and Aster also planned to collaborate with Joaquin Phoenix again for the film. Aster and Phoenix were scouting New Mexico shooting locations in August of 2023. In March 2024, Phoenix Stone, Austin Butler, Pedro Pascal, Luke Grimes, Deirdre O'Connell, Michael or Mikhail Ward, and Clifton Collins Jr. were added to the cast, with Butler taking over Abbott's role. The film was produced by Square Peg and A24, who also financed the film with IPR and VC. Filming took place from March through May of 2024 in Albuquerque and Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Bobby Krlik will compose the film score. But yeah, I'm blown away by this trailer. And then realizing that the audio track goes under and it talks about Gematria in the background. I'm like, this is just unbelievable. And yeah, the fact that it's coming out right before my 42nd birthday too. And we know 42 is the big jab number also. VACCINE equals 42. Again, the beginning of that trailer is talking about how Tom Hanks, the first celebrity at the virus, my quote a gazillion times, was born in 56. Remember, that was the year that Elvis got the polio vaccine on live TV on Jonas Salk's 42nd birthday. Eventually, Elvis would die at 42. And that was also Bill Gates' first birthday. Bill Gates, who operates in Washington State, the 42nd state. But yeah, hey, Ari, if you're out there, if the movie does well, think about supporting the cause, even anonymously. Feel like you're a fan, so, I mean, come on, man. If we inspired a movie over here, got to give us a little something. All right. I'm not going to take any calls tonight because the audio system, for whatever reason, has a little glitch in it today, so I got to troubleshoot that. But we will take calls. I do want to make that a part of the show, taking a few calls at the end of each broadcast. But we got a glitch in the system for tonight, so we will save it. Somebody in the chat says they have an important question. Go ahead, David. What's the important question? We'll close it out with your important question. I got to wrap this thing up, though. That's true, Mike. That is true. Mike's making the point about how the trailer starts with 56, and it does come out 3 days before my birthday, and 3 does equal 56. So does my surname, which is also true. Hubbard does also equal 56. Very true. Very true. For the person who got here late, Kazi, you got to listen to the whole trailer very carefully, because the opening with the 56 and Tom Hanks is my quote. And if you listen, that same voice is going through the whole trailer in the background. The voice doesn't stop. There's noise over the top. Again, you can hear at the 20-second mark, if you listen carefully, the voice in the background says, Gematria is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words. The whole thing is just my running quote from one of my YouTube videos. I shouldn't say from one of them. It's from the same thing I said a gazillion times over and over. I'm the most redundant YouTuber there ever was. Talk about the same things day after day because these things have to be learned. So the question in the chat is just a completely dumb question. Are the Jesuits classified as white? I hope you're a troll. Why would they be classified as white? People of all races are in the Jesuit order. God. Unbelievable question. That's why you don't like, this is why interacting with the public can be terrible. I have a really important question. You're like, okay, I can't wait to hear it. Are the Jesuits classified as white? I need to get out my sound effects. Do you have any more funnies out there? Let me get my sound effects warmed up here. For that one, it's like... Are the Jesuits classified as white? What do you do? Where's the thing? It's this one, right? Yeah, it's that one. Who else has some more questions so I can give some more rim shots? You're not trolling. Oh boy, then you get this sound effect. You're on the wrong channel, buddy. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We got to leave it there before we get any more questions like this. That was terrible. That was terrible. That was worse than Joe. That was worse than the 5-minute audio clip from Joseph. Woo! What are we gonna do here, True Seeker? We're trying to elevate the consciousness, but sometimes I think it's not working. Sometimes I feel like it's impossible. All right, yeah, we're gonna leave it there, you guys. Thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. And if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, count on it with an exclamation point. Eventually, I'm going to start streaming over there. They still haven't enabled the live streaming on that channel yet, though, so I can't. And by the way, if you follow my Gematria Effect Sports channel, that channel might be on the verge of deletion. I don't know why. I got an email today that I lost the privilege of live streaming on there, so I can no longer live stream on Gematria Effect Sports. And I can also no longer make videos on there that are longer than 15 minutes. And they said I'll be able to reapply for those privileges in 3 months. Again, that channel's been destroyed, though, for over 2 years. 2 years ago, during March Madness, they took 6,000 subscribers from the channel overnight, and it's constantly gone down in subscribers ever since. And it also doesn't get any views on any video anymore. For people who don't know, when you eclipse 100,000 subs, YouTube has to send you a silver plaque as a congratulations. I've had 3 Gematria Effect News channels on the verge of 100,000 subs, and they all got deleted right before they hit. And then Gematria Effect Sports was at 95,000 subs and change when it dropped down to 6,000, down to 89,000, where it's been parked for 2 years. And now tonight on Easter, I get this email that I've lost the privilege to live stream on the channel, and I can no longer make videos more than 15 minutes. So I'm like, okay. I guess they don't want me covering the NBA playoffs and exposing how rigged it all is again. So. For the guy with the questions that make me go like this. Yes, the Jesuits began in Europe. The Jesuits now operate in 112 countries worldwide and have people of all different races, ethnicities, faiths, belief systems. They don't even have to be exclusively Catholic. I mean, again, if you ever had a teacher tell you there's no such thing as a bad question, they lied to you. What are the point of these questions? When you're spamming in the chat, I have a very important question. And then you say, okay, what is it? And you go, are the Jesuits white? It's like, okay, that's not an important question. It's also a dumb question. It's also something you could have easily researched yourself. And then your follow-up question is, did they start in Europe? All night I've talked about how they started in Paris, France. Do you not know where Paris, France is? It just, God, I mean, I'm guessing this guy's definitely religious. Let him be the latest product of what religion does to the brain. Yeah, exactly. The Jesuits claim to operate in 112 countries, and Catholicism equals 112 like mathematics. I think they really operate in every country in the world. Hey, you guys should look up the phone number for the Jesuits in Nigeria. It'll make you laugh. In light of that being the big story this week, look up the phone number for the Jesuit headquarters in Nigeria. Their phone number is 177 3535. 177 3535. And it should remind you that on a phone, there are letters and numbers on the pad, right? Because the Jesuit order, we always talk about the 201, but if you run it the other way, the Jesuit order equals 177, just like New World Order. And Jesuitism, Catholic, Holy See, they all equal 35. So their phone number for the Jesuits in Nigeria is 177 3535. All right. I am really getting out of here if I have to read any more of this guy's questions. Have a good night, unless you're in the other part of the world. And until next time, everybody, you take care.